right on time. So we'll carry on with Hans, please. Welcome.
Hi, good day everybody. Hans is my name, Hans Janus. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. In my submission, I concentrate on the fact that I think we're talking about a green product, so I think putting it, the very idea of it was to avoid landfill. So this submission to put in, or the idea to put it temporarily in landfill is counterproductive. Equally to cart it around the country, even to the North Island, in creating a lot of CO2, and that is counterproductive to the very product. So my submission concentrated on the fact to try to find a solution where we can deal with it locally until such time is hopefully something is found close by to simply save transport costs. So I put in that submission that I was suggesting tunnel houses, the way how those things are operated. Compost is put out and it needs this machine to go through to turn it regularly. And I thought if you have tunnel houses, it can catch the odor. Technically, I thought a very easy option for that is, and that is something that is absolutely readily available, is if you put rows of containers and then you get these metal spans which have a cover over it, clear cover. It's used on construction sites, so between containers you virtually create a tunnel house. So that is a technology which is used for, I don't know, many years, 20 years, something like that. So it's well approved regarding wind impacts and other things. It is also highly movable because they're containers. So if you have rows of containers, they can be adopted. And as I see at the site in Bromley, they actually have room for it now. So I think that could work. The inside of the containers, having containers would possibly also allow to put filter systems in it or have an air movement system in it to actually deal with the odors. I mean, you have virtually on the other side of the road, you have these digesters which have before been creating a lot of problems with the odor. So there is obviously, once something like that is done, there is means how you can actually completely control it. So the only thing you need to do is capture it, and is what my submission is about, to find a temporary solution on site until whatever the time span will be where you have a more permanent site. And thereby I think it would greatly keep costs down, because you're talking about many tons that have to be shifted every day, and that is a big cost. And even if there is no place yet established where it can be shifted to, that makes it even harder. So to spend a little bit of money compared to what the constant transport would otherwise cost on finding a solution which can work, in which can be increased or decreased or shifted altogether, that would be my suggestion in this. It's just to come up with a positive way forward of keeping it local. I think that's it in a nutshell. The other thing what I was addressing is if it needs to be transported over longer distances, I think it'll be possibly an idea to look at making use of the rail network, because again, it's probably a more environmentally friendly option than using trucks. That is if you're looking at longer distances. Mm-hmm. But as I say, my main focus is to keep it where it is and find a solution until the time, and I think you pointed out that might be 3-4 years or so, where it hopefully also can be treated close to Christchurch, again to save transport costs. I mean, every day there's all the green bag things sort of get collected there, and it's a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's it.
Okay, Councillor Fields, you've got a question.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks. Kia ora, Hans. Thanks
Yes.
for making the effort to come through today. I really appreciate that. So just in terms of the solution, do you have any locations or examples where it has worked well, that just off the top of your head, no worries if you don't, but just where a solution like that, because you say the technology has been existed for some time. Do you know
You mean
where?
with containers?
Yeah, like as you've described it, where's it working well?
I think if you look around, you see that a lot, especially where. Oh yeah, everywhere. It's a lot of like Fulton Hogan and all these big companies on their yards. They have containers because they're a very easy lock up thing, and so then it's just sort of big metal struts which get bolted on top of the containers. So the containers are the anchor and hold the superstructure. And then that can be covered either with a see-through or with usually you use tarpaulins. And so I think that could be reasonably well sealed. No? And then you just need something at the end, and you can have gates like, I mean, even when you go to Pack and Save, between the cool store, they have these hanging curtains of plastic. So machinery can go through and it immediately closes again. So it's just a matter to find a inexpensive solution for it. And so that is always the best, is not to try to reinvent the wheel, but go to something which is actually there and can virtually be bought off the shelf.
Thank you.
And as I say, it's capturing is one thing of it, but then I think if you really want to get rid of the odors, you need to somehow treat them. I don't know how you can do it, if you have special filters for it or whatsoever. I'm sure that technology is there as well. And that could easily be accommodated in the containers because they are empty. So, because all they are doing is actually holding the superstructure. But you have plenty of place, and you can make these alleys, as you could say, you can make them longer, shorter, have more side by side. It's very flexible, very adaptable to any location. And even if you come up with a good system which works, then actually all you need is another site, and you can actually do the same thing or sophisticate it.
Thank you, Hans. That's a really good answer. Thank you very much. We're running out of time, so thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Good.
Well, thank you.
Enjoy.
Well done.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have Darren, please. Welcome.
Alrighty, thank you very much for the chance to come and speak today. I am speaking, it's my submission, but made on behalf of Intelligro. We are a large-scale manufacturer of compost on the outskirts of Christchurch, doing it for over 40 years. It is our view that the public consultation options put forward on the table are poor, based on the following points. From an environmental point of view, they're poor. Green waste should never ever be buried in the ground. It should be composted and reused to enhance the environment. It's poor alignment with the sustainable policies put in place by government. Poor alignment with the policies around the minimisation of waste. It is poor from a greenhouse gas emissions point of view. It is poor financially. The interim report in July states anywhere from $32 million to $166 million of taxpayers' money, ratepayers' money, could be used. And it's poor for the people of Christchurch. The fifth option to remain at the OPP with an additional screen is even worse. A new screen will not guarantee solving of the odour issue. The risk of further offensive odour here was ranked in the July report as medium to high. The highest ranked feedback from Bromley residents presented is that they want the curbside organics process to be sent to an alternative composting plant. Feedback was the same across all submitters. Cape Valley has been talked about, but it is also poor for the above reasons. Cape Valley is also no guaranteed option. They have to obtain resource consent or transport consent for a large increase in truck movements to take all 60,000 tonnes. It is a poor option because it will be a deterrent to the people of Christchurch using their green bins as intended correctly for the next 5 years. This could lead to an increased contamination once the permanent facility is operational. As they say, people's habits are hard to change. It is no wonder that 70% of submitters preferred sending all curbside organics to a South Island processor if one became available. Well, Intelligro is a South Island processor, and we have a solution. I note our solution is not not our current facility. It is a brand new facility away from everybody else. Now, I'm not here to make a sales pitch. I've been warned by council staff this is not the time or place to make one. This is a summary of my submission. We were engaged by council regarding our solution to the OPP a few months leading up to the June report, and then mentioned again in the July interim report to councillors. We were well ranked, but apparently required further information. We have a great solution, but it has been ignored up until now. Why weren't the public given the opportunity to vote on our submission and what we had to say? It's been 3.5 years since the council knew without a doubt that the OPP was affecting residents. 2 years have passed since you councillors voted to move the plant. Action is needed now. On this issue, I believe council need to change their behaviour, their processes, and change the way they think. You owe it to the very people that elected you to this position to make a difference when they so badly need a solution. Please do the right thing. So thank you for listening to my submission. If you have any questions?
Okay,
Please
Councillor Peters, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was intrigued in your submission to see that you may have a solution for us, and that it may not cost us an arm, a leg, and firstborn child. Can you expand on that at all?
I can provide a brief summary of what our solution was that was included in that July report. We proposed a brand new composting plant well away from our existing operation and away from sensitive receptors. We're aware that there's no point putting a plant somewhere where people are going to keep smelling it. Compost will be done properly. The plant will be designed by an industry-leading company using state-of-the-art technology to minimise any offensive odours. We're run by people who've been composting for a long time. It could be operational within 12 months of having ECAN granting consent. Now that gives the people of Christchurch a huge win. Now this is an interim solution. It will be operational as long as the Christchurch people need it for. We know that the permanent solution is operational 2027 to 2029, and the numbers being bandied around, and conservatively, who knows. It also gives the City of Christchurch a great plan B if that new facility was ever incapacitated. As I said, we'll be able to take 80,000 tonnes a year. That's more than the city currently produces, and based on the current numbers, it's probably good for 50 years at that volumes. I believe, as part of IntelliGrow, that it is in the public's best interest that the council further engage with us on this solution. We're not part of the current tender for the permanent solution, but we've got a pretty damn good opportunity to help the people out.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison Hunt. And then Councillor Keown, and then we're done.
Great. Kia ora, Darren. How are you? Hey, I've just got a question around your submission, and you said there's potential in working in expediting consent to be able to put that in. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
I have seen that ECAN in the past have, in some of their powers, have been able to issue emergency consents and work in progress consents to allow work to undertake with the view that things will be put forward down the track. We know that consents process is long. We're currently going through it in IntelliGrow at the moment, and we're 8 months into an amendment to consent. My comment to that was that we believe that if ECAN are really serious and the Christchurch City Council are really serious that this problem needs to be addressed and moved, then we don't feel there's a reason why they couldn't come to the party, so to speak, to help this out for an interim solution while a permanent consent was granted.
Okay, and you've got a parcel of land ready to go.
We have several parcels of land that are an option to us. Again, chicken and egg situation. We can't move forward with serious negotiations on those land areas until we know that the council is serious. However, we have indications from the people who own the land that they are open to us putting a facility onto the site.
Okay, don't give me a number, but you'd like a capital investment to be able to build this facility to be able to take this material. We
would need capital investment, that's correct. And we feel that any capital investment could be obtained by gate fees. The dumping gate fees, it would be no more than what the current amount of money is taken from the rates bill for the operation of the OPP. So essentially that the money set aside for the OPP operation would help, yes, it would help fund our facility through the gate fees.
Which would be shared by Selwyn and Christchurch, is what you're saying?
We would be offering first to Christchurch City Council, And then if there was a need to take more waste from other areas, then we'd look at that as well.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Councillor Kewen, and I'm just letting this go a bit longer because it's interesting.
Sorry.
Thanks, Darren. So just to be clear, you're saying that we could get a better environmental outcome and not have it near the people in Bromley at the same cost that it's already costing us. But what would be the fastest, if there was the help on the consent, what is the fastest we could be not operating at Bromley and impacting on those neighbours, even if we ask for ministerial intervention?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron.
What's the fastest
Sorry?
that could be?
Oh, sorry, can't hear what he's.
What's the fastest that could be? When's the soonest this thing could be open?
Assuming that we would have assistance with a consent, we could be operational within 12 months.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's good. I've let time go on a wee bit fast.
that's
So
fine.
thank you for your
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you. Okie doke. So, Diane, please.
Hello.
Oh.
I think the people of Christchurch East has been forgotten in many ways, and this issue needs to be resolved as quickly as possible, but also the greatest cost-effective way and, you know, the less smell involved. And I thought that was number 5, so that's what I chose. But related to this decision and many decisions is the way that you calculate your emissions. And so that's why I wanted to introduce Professor Miles Allen's work on methane. So Professor Allen is from Oxford University with a lot of credentials behind him, too many to list here. And he's also had lead roles in the IPCC. He's very concerned about climate change, which is the driving force for him to get things right. So with him and his team, they submitted a paper in 2018 called A Solution to the Misrepresentation of CO2 Equivalent Emissions of Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Under Ambitious Mitigation. So that's a big mouthful, but there is some links to some little YouTube things he speaks to, you know, cattle breeders in Britain, and there's also ones in Australia that can explain his views more clearly than having to read this whole paper. But the paper is not simply rubber-stamped, peer-reviewed like so many are these days, but it was taken apart, thoroughly dissected, and ripped apart trying to disprove it. But it was finally approved by the 6th assessment report of the IPCC in 2021. In the report, it explains the fact that methane is a very different gas from CO2. It doesn't accumulate in the atmosphere, but breaks down in about 10 years' time. Professor Allen states that we've been misrepresenting the warming effect of methane as CO2 equivalent, saying that it is 28 times higher is wrongly done, when in fact it is a much, much lower rate because of the way it dissipates. And anyway, you have to watch his video. I can't explain it in a few minutes here. He mentions that it is, if there's no new sources of methane introduced, then there's no more warming effect from the methane. So in the case of ruminants, you know, cows are often the big baddie, but ruminants is a whole category of animals, including deer and sheep and all kinds of animals. If there's no natural change, if there's a natural change to their diet with introduction of weed called plantain and or seaweed, both have been proven to significantly reduce methane in ruminants, then this will cause a cooling effect. Another way, of course, is reducing herd numbers. So just as a side note, there's many sources of methane. So landfill is one, rice fields is another big producer. So are wetlands, as well as the ruminants. So if council feels methane is a huge issue, then it might want to think again about returning the eastern part of the red zone into a wetland. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with this because wetlands have a lot of positive effects on the environment. So it's not a big problem with me. But if you're going to count methane in your decision making, then you also have to include the methane from wetlands. That's, you have to be fair. But anyway, so Professor Allen and his colleagues have suggested a global warming potential be used to calculate methane rather than using the wholly inaccurate CO2 equivalent that has been used to date. So I feel the council has a great opportunity to be a lead in this method that's been endorsed by the IPCC, because something that so far the central government has overlooked this. So I think it's time that, we become more up to date. If we're really serious about the climate, we have to get things right. So I did have a practical solution as well here, but if you have any questions.
Yes, anyone got any questions? No, not at the moment. You've still got 50.
Okay, well, the other issue was just about the change. If council is concerned about the changing weather patterns and the rise of water levels, why are you considering committing millions to a new library next to a river with unstable land and likely to flood according to your projections? The people of Christchurch South deserve a library that will last for years and one that does not put excessive burdens on the rest of Christchurch ratepayers by needing massive amounts of land remediation before the building even begins. The Upper Rickerton Library is a great example of sharing land usage between a school and the public and could be explored with Cashmere High School, which is a few blocks away. The land next to the river could be used as a sustainability zone with a food forest and composting, community composting on site to encourage smaller, it's not going to relieve the whole problem, but just to encourage people to do their own composting. And we could have a little shed there to upcycle materials as well, repairing them. So.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good on you. See you later. Right. Keely, please. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't have any notes and I'm not very well prepared. But to me, the problem seemed to just be rather simple in that you're trying to mitigate or resolve the issue of the odour at the same time as deal with the issue of green waste from a city without having any other impacts. And I come from the position of both a home gardener, but also having studied as an ecologist. And I know that nature has a great way. Nature has a compost. Every time you walk into the bush and you go, and you smell that beautiful smell, that is composting. And composting is a process that involves, it's a natural system. And I wonder if there's an issue with odour in the system that's being used, it's an issue within that process. And so instead of chucking out the whole idea and just sending it to Cape Valley where it rots, if you've got something that's causing an odour, it's not a composting process, that's a rotting process that's going on. So there's something that's turning composting into rotting to produce that odour. So you need to shift it back towards composting. So you need to take, I'm not a process engineer, but to me, process engineers, I don't know a lot about the facility, but I understand that it has in-vessel tunnels that deal with a portion of it. My understanding of that system is that it's designed to take care of the composting conditions and take care of the odour. So maybe there's an issue with the filtering of the biofilters there that needs to be done better. Or the other thing is maybe once it gets out into the windrows, I know in my compost or in, if too much water gets in, things rot instead of, and that's where you get terrible odours instead of composting, which is a natural living process. So maybe it's as simple as putting a roof over it. I don't know what the solutions are, but to me, instead of trucking it somewhere, putting it in a hole, spending millions, look at the process that's already going on and tweak it to give you those outcomes. I would be really concerned about the odour if I was a resident in Bromley, and so I'm not saying to minimise anybody's concerns, but to address all those concerns, but to address them within that process that's happening. Yeah, and somehow fix that process, because composting and breaking down of organic materials is a natural process that shouldn't have all these odours. And I know that on a large scale in an industrial facility, it's not like the forest floor, but somehow we, bring in elements of the forest floor and put it in the system. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Cotter.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a question. I don't know if you can answer this, but putting putrescible, is it? Putrescible.
Yep.
Or removing the putrescibles. Do you think the putrescibles could make the compost out there smell.
Oh, definitely. But then if you add, like if you've got putrescibles and things, if you've got too much wet stuff, you need to add dry stuff. So you might need to actually buy in and bring in woody material to add in
Yeah, I think
to
we've
get the
been
balance
doing that.
right.
Okay,
Right.
so what you're saying is you can put putrescibles in and not have a smell so long as you get the recipe right.
Yeah, and especially if you're doing that in the in vessel thing, if it's an enclosed, I don't know whether it's tunnel houses that they use.
Yeah, it is. It's big concrete bins, first stage.
But if it's in vessel, an in vessel system should be an enclosed system.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
Closed
and
doors.
so then you have to have somewhere where the odours come out of.
Yeah, they come out and they go through a biofilter.
Yeah, so maybe the biofilter needs to be better, or the mixture in the thing needs to be different. I don't know. I'm not a process engineer.
Okay, thank you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Keely. That's very good. Thanks for coming in.
See you.
Okie doke. Caitlin, please.
Kia ora, ko Caitlin Lamb tuku ingoa. I am a compost educator and an organic market gardener. And how we process our organic waste greatly impacts on soil and food quality, as well as on human health, which is why I am interested in the options for organic waste processing in Otatahi, Christchurch. The options I support for organic waste processing is partial processing at Living Earth, as well as alternative processing. I support partial processing, but decreasing the amount processed there, as it should reduce the smell. I also support this as the infrastructure is already invested in, so we should continue to use it in a smart way. And I've also heard from people who used to work there that when Living Earth was designed, it wasn't designed for future growth, so there's too much materials being processed there, and that's why we should reduce the amount, because it's not composted enough when it goes outside, and that's why it smells. Monopoly effect of ownership. Having more organic waste processing plants around the city also increase climate change resilience, as there would be less carbon miles, and creates the opportunity for consumer education, which would reduce contamination and get rid of out of sight, out of mind mindset. Extreme Zero Waste in Raglan and Kaicycle in Wellington are great examples of organic waste processing in a decentralised way with amazing education for the community. So I recommend looking into that. There's great examples around Aotearoa, New Zealand, of what we could do in Christchurch, and I think we should definitely look into this, please. And finally, the issue of organic waste processing creates an opportunity to investigate the microplastic contamination at Living Earth. This is a huge problem in centralised composting systems and needs to be taken seriously. Otherwise, it contaminates our soil and our food, which contaminates us, humans, who eats the food. For example, an organic market garden that I know of purchases Living Earth compost, which could be contaminating their soils, therefore the food, therefore the consumers. To conclude, I support the continuation of organic waste processing at Living Earth, but the materials processed there must be reduced in order to reduce smell. This presents the opportunity to diverse the organic waste processing system with more constructed around the city, such as Extreme Zero Waste and Kaicycle. Lastly, the need to investigate microplastic contamination at Living Earth is urgent. Happy to take questions.
And Councillor Johansson, please.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your submission. Just interested in the microplastics issue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense of what sort of cost or what sort of process we would best to be looking at to do that sort of audit?
Yep, so I don't know about an audit, but I was told that the screening of like the contamination from the green bins happens after the composting process has occurred rather than before, which I've heard is because it's more expensive to do it before, which means in the composting process all that plastic is being broken down with the organic materials, therefore microplastics are entering into the compost. So perhaps a pre-screening before composting could be looked into. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Cotter.
Mr Mayor, you might know, but I'm pretty sure it is pre-screened It all goes up. Have you been out there? It all goes up on a big conveyor belt, and all the plastic and metals and all sorts of things are taken out before it's composted. Yeah, I recall
All the
that.
you're talking about all the stuff that goes from it to Living Earth?
Yes, it goes up on a conveyor belt, and
We
all
can
the
get some
stuff's pulled
information
out. and-
They'll
back
get
on
some
it.
Because they get some incredible things in those green bins that shouldn't be there. Yeah, just letting you know.
Okay, doke. We've got it. Thank you very much for coming in.
Cool.
Good on
Kia
you.
ora.
Okay, Annette, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm the manager of the Bromley Community Centre, and we have been hugely impacted by the ongoing stench. So today, I've been listening in on live stream, and I know there's been lots of technical arguments going back and forth, but I want to speak about the human cost to our community. I'm in daily contact with those in our community who are impacted by the stench. They're exhausted. They're in despair. They're ground down. They just don't have the energy to fight. They're having never-ending stress of having to cope with the continuing smell and the impact it has on their daily lives, and some are at breaking point. Despite the plant taking steps to mitigate the odour, it still persists. A resident told me this morning that last night about 8 p.m, they were forced inside due to the putrid stench. It was so bad they would have gagged on the odour if they had remained outside. They were unable even to leave the back door open so they could run their dryer and avoid condensation in the house. It is impacting our residents in every way possible for normal, everyday situations that we all have to deal with. Parents are unable to walk their children to school because of the smell. It is just too bad. But for some parents who don't have transport, who can't get the car out and take their child to school, they have to walk their children to school or to kindy, breathing in that smell. It's not good enough. The asthmatics in our area are also deeply affected. They tell me that when the odour is strong, they are unable to breathe properly. The smell catches in their throat, and so begins the coughing and the reaching for the inhaler. I am in favour of the Cape Valley option. Every other option means that the OPP plant stays open to some degree while a long-term solution is put in place. This means the potential for the community to have to endure yet more obnoxious odours from the plant remains. While the plant remains open, it creates fear in the residents. Fear that this situation will never be resolved. For some, there is fear of what is in the air they are breathing in. We were warned when working with compost to wear a mask to mitigate the likelihood of contracting Legionnaire's disease. Their fear of contracting Legionnaire's through the airborne particles of dust they breathe in is very real. There is fear that if the plant remains open, their health will continue to suffer. This results in visits to the doctors and doctors' fees. And this adds to the worry of how do they survive on a very limited income anyhow, coupled with the fact that for many in our area, some are having to wait a week, if not 2, to get an appointment to see a medical specialist. There is fear of how the ongoing stench is affecting house prices for those that may want to downsize or move. There is a fear of having to endure another Christmas day, not knowing whether they can entertain family outside or not. And I want to speak about the users of the centre. I want to know that they are able to celebrate when they use our centre, whether it be for a 21st birthday, a wedding reception, that they can celebrate without the stench impacting on their enjoyment of the day. For some, it's a very special day. We have funerals at the centre and headstone unveilings. They are grieving, they are coping with so much, and yet they have to cope with the stench as well. This is not fair on our community. We hold community events. We have things like Christmas in the Brom, our fair, Matariki events. We want to be able to hold these without the smell impacting on us, our enjoyment. I believe that you on the council stood for council because you wanted to be able to make a positive difference to the lives of the people in Christchurch, and because you wanted to make this city a great place to live in. The reality is that for the people of Bromley, at the moment, this is not the case. They are not feeling Christchurch as a great city to live in. I am asking you to make the right decision to close the plant immediately, so that the suburb of Bromley is no longer defined as the suburb with the smell, but it is defined as a suburb where people can enjoy their life and have quality of life and enjoy clean air like the rest of Christchurch. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. That was a very, very good submission. Thank you. Very, very good. Passionate. Thank you. Ellen, please.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, thank you for having me in your chamber today. There should be an overhead go up on the screen that's got sprung by numbers on it. It's don't need it straight away to be good if it can arrive there. Oh yeah, not that one. It's the one with the blue look. Oh, we'll see how we go. Yeah, that's it. So, short presentation. Green bin organics. I'm here to share with you a view I have and a passion I have for the city and how to sort out a long-term issue that council have been struggling with, I think. And I've got a unique building system with clear span interiors that, if part of the solution going forward is to cover green bin organics, then this is should be held in consideration for how to do that. Others have attempted to copy sprung structures, and you can see it on the screen up there. The building system comes out of Calgary in Canada, and they have a branch down in the United States as well, in Utah. Others have tried to copy it, but they've been unable to do so. Sprung started 140 years ago as a family business, and it's still a family business. And they've had a 40-year patent on a building system that is an aluminium frame and has membrane structure to infill. You can take a look at it and say that's a tent. Well, it isn't a tent. It can go around corners. It can go 300 metres long if you need it to do that, and it can clear span 48.6 metres. Council have known about sprung structures for some time. There are two in Christchurch now. One's on Rafidi, that's an open-sided canopy for sport. But there is one pretty similar to what I think may be considered if you decide you need to go with a building or buildings at some stage, and that's out at next to Lewis's Furniture opposite the Wigram entrance. It's the King's Swim School, and that's fully enclosed, a conditioned and managed environment inside, and it's got 23 centimetres of insulation in it, and it's airtight. On this screen up there, there's a couple of things that I'll just highlight, and you may be able to get a hard copy of that going forward. But Sprung's done 12,500 buildings around the world. That's why I'm That's why I'm very interested and keen on them. I'm not on their payroll, but I am interested in promoting their use in New Zealand. So 12,500 structures in over 100 countries, and there's 2 in Christchurch. Their efficiency is at R30. Now, on a BAT scale, that's equivalent to about R7. It's a North American number. But there's less than 2% air leakage. Ideal for ice rinks and for swimming pools, and for a use that you need to control the environment. If council is looking for a solution for green waste or green bin organics, then the environment can be controlled. If you put a tin shed up, where the roof meets the walls, where the windows are and where the doors are, there'll be leakages around the seams. That won't happen with a sprung structure that's fully enclosed and you can control the environment. I'm not here to promote how that environment should be built inside or what equipment you put inside. I'm here to promote a building system that will withstand hurricane winds. There's plenty of evidence in the Caribbean and even closer to home in Vanuatu a few years ago, where most of the rest of the town and the cities fall over, but Sprung don't. They stand hurricane force winds. They endure 60 degrees Fahrenheit below, minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees of Fahrenheit in a positive manner. That's Fahrenheit, so the numbers look bigger, but they're pretty impressive all the same. It's certified flame retardant. You get a 25-year warranty, up to a 25-year warranty on your membrane. You may have a short-term requirement for a building over green bin organics, but you can relocate. You can relocate that building. You can reuse it for another matter. You don't need to, and you've got a 50-year warranty on the structure. There'll be no maintenance on that.
How are you going?
I'm pretty much finished, really. I just think that when you get to a situation where you're making decisions, if buildings are required, it should be considered seriously.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and telling us.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Doug, please. All right. Waiting patiently there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Is this going?
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's green, it's going.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I came to this meeting, a meeting similar to this in June, and I was actually quite encouraged by the attitude of you, but it seems there's a disconnect between the elected members and the actions of the non-elected members, because I'm certainly no further ahead. It seems like I've got a trail of emails, which some have been replied to, some haven't been replied to, but it seems there's a problem with my brother and I have a solution to this, and we just basically, before we start, we just want to be assured that what we bring, we will get the credit for. And like there seems to be, and part of this was in a non-disclosure agreement, which basically the contentious point is that, I'll just quote it, the council wishes to have the proposed discussions with the Williamsons to assess the efficacy of their recommended solution to the owner emanating from the plant. And then clause 2, each party will use the confidential information only for the purpose of assessing the Williamsons' recommended solution to the odour problem, and the council agreed not to adopt, in part or whole, the proposed solution without first obtaining the written consent of the Williamsons and agreeing to the commercial terms for its use. Now, there seems to be a problem with that from the council side, and I just can't see what the problem is, because the council have nothing to lose by agreeing to that. And we will put a complete proposal which will solve the problem, that will bring the plant back to what it was originally designed to do. Now, that will solve everybody's problem because it will make it so much easier to move it. If the council can show that the plant can operate without causing a nuisance to the environment and other neighbours, well, it'll make it easier to move it. So I'm just wondering what part of what we're saying is unreasonable and why. So that's basically why I've come here today.
Okay, has anyone got any questions, please? Oh, Andre.
Thank you for coming in. Yeah, you've been talking about a solution for some years, both about the organics plant and the wastewater plant.
That's correct, yeah.
And last time you spoke to us, it was talking about it's not about money, it's just that when you put your proposal forward, or your solution, you would like the credit for it. Fair enough.
Well,
So if we can agree that you are given the credit, are you happy to tell us what the solution is? Because we've got 4 weeks up our sleeve. The people of Bromley want a solution, the people of Christchurch want a solution. If we agree to give you the credit, can you tell us a solution?
But what is the credit though? Basically,
well, this is it. We've got 4 weeks up. Yeah,
yeah. Like basically, I'm not coming here and anything to do with money.
Cool,
right? But you have to realise that if something's worth something, I want a proportion of it.
Yeah. So it is about money.
Well, primarily it's not about money.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. But we've got 4 weeks up, so we need to know the solutions.
But like in my dealings with the council organisations, I find them incredibly ruthless, right? Yeah. So
you're not prepared to tell us the solution today?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Okay, righto. Any more questions? No, we're all good. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, okay.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're down to Alison, please. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Afternoon, everybody. I prefer to stand if you mind, don't mind. Is that all right? Look, I've been in recycling and conservation for 40 years. One time we challenged the then, what was it called, Town Country Planning Act, and we won. So we've got a bit of street cred. The thing is about Bromley and composting, really at the moment, is the flagship of recycling. It's all we've got to put bales of paper in a storeroom somewhere, aluminium or anything else. But recycling, it's a winner because you do it, you put it in, you bring it out and you put it on your garden or wherever you do it, it's a winner. And people believe in it. So you can't stop it for a second. So there, right? Now, I'll give you a wee history here. I don't know, you're not old enough. Well, you're not. You don't remember the Bexley tip, do you?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. Well, you see, that was about as Goma in South Africa or, I don't know, Thailand or somewhere. It's a disgrace. And then on the one side, that's the east side, right?
We used to come back with more stuff than we took down there.
Take your point. On the other side, you had the glue factory and the tannery and stuff. I tell you, the stink was hellish. It became legendary. But it's not like that now. These things were being changed. It was getting better, and good old Mr. Castles has helped and stuff, and I know, I bless him. And it really, the concept of the stench became a bit of a legend. But then you made this awful error. It wasn't your fault. Somebody burnt the digesters down. Mm-hmm. Now I was on a wastewater working party for about 3 or 4 years, in early 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there. I've been right through the organisation. It was sweet. As was the whole of the sewage department. It was all sweet. The smell wasn't really there. The point is, composting doesn't need to be smelly like that. It's sweet. I'm sure some of you are gardeners. So you've got to think like that, and you can't move it because it's close enough. If you moved it out to Quail Island, because I was part of Quail Island, McLean's Island, nobody would go there. Goodness me, I wouldn't take a trailer out, it's too far. That's what people think. It's part of our community. And from composting, we move on to the other parts of recycling and waste management. And that's what you've got to do. One thing I would do is that I'd move the red bin stuff out of the way, because there's no interface there with people. There used to be. You used to burrow into the stuff. But you don't now. You can't get into it. That is smelly. And that shouldn't be there. But the composting plant, I stand by this, has to stay there close to society. Now, I know, I'm with the Bromley people, I know what they put up with, but the concept of the stench was made worse by, why didn't somebody like Phil get in with his digger straight away? Yes, mea culpa, mea culpa. That's what you should have done. That's what, direct action. Well, it didn't happen. It was bureaucracy. And let's not go over that again, but that's what happened, and the stench got worse, and everybody thought what it used to be like, which it wasn't like that in 2000, but it became as though it was. And here we are now. All I can say is keep the Bromley plant there, encourage, and the two words I want to say to you, get rid of the concept of waste, because waste is a resource, it's an asset. Now, we got this through, and it was Bob Parker, dear soul, I know he's really well, ill. But he insisted on getting the pipe from the waste party out to Pegasus Bay, because he wanted it on his, what do you call those things? You put it and say how important I am. CV. That was fine, but it was the wrong thing to do. But we did manage to get further through that to say that all this waste, all this sewage, everything else is an asset, a resource, and that's where we've got to be. Stop talking about waste management right across. Talk about resource management, and then we're getting somewhere. But please, we've got to keep operating the Bromley plant where it is. People are not going to go further out. I've been doing this stuff for a long, long time. We've had a few victories, but I want this to be a victory too. I really do.
Excellent.
So, see what you can do, right? Good on you.
Thank you for our history lesson.
Here we are.
And pointing out all the old people who knew what the Bexley dump was. And he was old.
Not criticising the pension.
Thank you very much for coming in.
No
very good.
problem at all.
Thank you.
I'll hobble away.
Okie doke. So what we will have now is a 5 or 10 minute cup of tea break, and then we'll reconvene for staff to come back and to table answer some questions if we